All right, so what's the technique required to hit a quality forehand drop shot? The first thing we got to touch on is the grip. Pretty self-explanatory, but I want to mention it. It has to be continental. There's just no way to be effective. You know, playing with some underspin obviously is a big advantage on a drop shot. To me, it's a must that it has to have underspin. And that continental grip, similar to what we would use, or exactly what we would use on our forehand volley, you know, sets us up to get the right effect of the drop shot, which is some underspin and obviously some height. And that's one thing that's a misconception for a lot of you out there, is that the drop shot should cross the net low, thinking, well, it's this small little shot, I want to really keep it short in the court. The lower it travels, the farther back it's going to bounce. So it's actually great to have that open racket angle, which the continental grip promotes, because height is your friend on a drop shot, because it means the second and the third bounce of the ball will be shallow in the court. Next thing we want to check on is racket path. How does the racket get delivered into the tennis ball to hit a quality forehand drop shot? And this will vary slightly based on how the ball is delivered to me, but generally I love the idea that a good forehand drop shot follows the shape of like a shallow U. So if at the top of the U out here, I drop into the ball, I'm now at the bottom of the U down in here. If a ball comes in soft, I'm actually going to start climbing back up the other side of this U. I'm not going to go vertical and kind of tweak the wrist out, but it's just this nice, soft, shallow U shape. Again, it's going to promote underspin and height. This is really going to be pronounced the slower the ball comes in. Let me show you. Mark will give me a ball, pretty slow shot. I'm playing the forehand drop shot. And you can see there's that nice shallow U shape where I'm really undercutting the bottom of the ball. Now, the faster it comes, maybe the ball has some spin on it, that stroke is going to get, you know, pretty significantly abbreviated. I'm going to use what's coming in, which is Mark's topspin and pace. I'm going to hit, you know, somewhat under the tennis ball, but I think you'll see I'm going to start to stop the racket very short, very abrupt, the faster the ball comes, and still get that desired effect of height and shallowness on my drop shot here. Okay, so notice I didn't start to climb back up the other side of this U shape. So the racket path will be dictated by how slow or fast the ball comes in, but have your head wrapped around that shallow U, and the faster it comes in, you're going to end up stopping a little bit short, okay? Third thing we got to touch on is the racket angle, all right? And I think it goes without saying, this is a very open-faced shot, all right? If Mark feeds me a ball in, Mark, feed me one in the air. I'm just going to show a standard forehand volley with my continental grip. Okay, see that racket angle? I'm much closer to square. It's still slightly open, but I'm much closer to square on a forehand volley than I would be on a drop shot. The drop shot, as I start to come into contact, the effect I want is more towards the bottom of the ball. So as you will start your forehand drop shot, you know, pretty close to where you would start a volley on the forehand side, we really want that racket angle to shallow out, creating more underspin and more height. So really get that effect. Even if Mark hits me a soft one right here, if I really carve underneath the bottom of the ball, I should be able to pop this ball up pretty close to where I'm standing. That's the feel I want to have. So Mark, little soft one right here. All right, and you can see that ball ends up spinning back to me. I want the bottom of the tennis ball in play on my string. So start to get very comfortable with an extremely open racket face on the forehand volley. Last thing to touch on is grip pressure. And this, again, goes hand in hand with the shape of the shot, or the racket path to the ball. Generally, it's a very loose gripped shot. I don't want you, on a scale of 1 to 10, ever hitting any drop shot more than maybe a 3 on the grip pressure scale. 1 being as loose as I can hold it, 10 being as firm as I can hold it. You know, the firmest I'll ever hold a drop shot in my hand will be a 3. But still, I'm not thinking ever that I've got to hit this with tension and tightness to get that ball over the net. Between a 1 and a 3, play around with it, but a drop shot definitely falls under the category of finesse, and therefore you're never looking for that feeling where you're really trying to, you know, firm up the grip and muscle the ball over. All right, so technique for that forehand drop shot, 4 musts. Continental grip, know that the path of the racket definitely really shallows out. We're looking for something close to a U shape. We really want that racket angle very wide open, and then play around with those low number grip pressures to really get that finesse and that feel, so that you can see that ball just barely get over the net and then just kind of dance right where it lands. All right, so that's the keys for that forehand drop shot. All right, so what do we need to know about technique for the backhand drop shot? A couple things we want to touch on. First is obviously grip, very similar to the forehand. We're not going to hit effective drop shots in anything other than continental grip. Pretty self-explanatory. We want those strings open. We want some underspin. In some cases on the backhand side, I think there's so much play with the spin to make the drop shot so effective on the backhand side that you absolutely have to be in continental grip, okay? Racket path, how are we delivering this thing to the ball? Again, very, very similar to the forehand, but to me sometimes more pronounced on the backhand side, is that the racket's really going to carve the bottom of the ball. So I'm making this really good steep drop from a nice set position. If you just went ahead and watched my standard slice backhand from here, okay, I'm still driving into the tennis ball from there. With the backhand drop shot, I want a ton of this carve, and therefore the swing path to the ball needs to really significantly cut under the tennis ball. There should be a little extra underspin on this for me compared to the forehand side. And once in a while, I'll even bring in the side spin on the backhand drop shot, where you might see the elbow take off a little bit across my body. Go ahead and feed one in, Mark. I'll bring that elbow out, and so not only am I getting the desired effect of the drop shot, but if the guy was super fast cutting in, he's also now dealing with a bounce that's leading, you know, him off the court. So play around obviously with the idea of really cutting under the ball, but also the path of the racket could cut inside the tennis ball a little bit to get this thing curving outward. Really cool play on that backhand side. Okay, next idea is obviously racket angle. This thing needs to be really wide open, but obviously still coming from a position where the racket's pretty upright. Okay, so as I get down into the ball, I actually love this where a ball comes in, you know, maybe I toss it to myself. In this instant, Mark's gonna feed me a soft one. I'm just going to land it a couple feet out in front of me and just pull the string coming back. The only way I can do that is to really fan that racket angle wide open. Mark, give me a ball, please. And, you know, love this right here, where this ball is just jumping back off this bounce here to get all this height and this underspin. And, you know, obviously you've probably seen it where the ball lands on the other side of the net and jumps back onto your side. Maybe you see the pros do that. That racket angle is flared wide open. Very important on that backhand side. Okay, and then grip pressure, right? So the grip pressure that I use on a backhand drop shot is dictated by the ball that Mark hits to me. Still a finesse shot like we saw on the forehand side. It's all finesse, so I'm never squeezing really tight, but the softer it comes, the softer I'm going to hold it. And that's a lot of times when I'll play the shot with some side spin. I can really manipulate the tennis ball the slower it comes in. So I'll hold it super loose, you know, maybe carve the inside of the ball, maybe go for the one that jumps back towards me. That's where I'm holding the racket at maybe a 1 out of 10 on my grip pressure scale. So that super slow ball coming in here, Mark, light grip pressure. There it is. Look at this ball. Dying and also with a little side spin. Let's see if I can play the one that's going to come back to me a little bit here. Little extra height on this. Love that drop shot. Hit the net. Okay. Very loose grip as Mark's ball is coming in soft. Now, as it picks up a little speed and a little spin, you know, I'm going to abbreviate the path of the racket. I'm not going to end up undercutting it and finishing out as much. I'll stop a little shorter. A lot of times still pulling off to the side a little bit if I want to see it curve. The grip pressure gets a little tighter to handle the pace and the spin, but still not more than maybe a 3 on grip pressure. So a little heavier ball here, Mark. I'm going to squeeze the grip a little tighter. Yeah, and that maybe got to a 4. I don't know. I'm definitely not at a 5 or higher. That might have been a 4 if I start to feel his ball pressuring me a little bit. Maybe slightly softer. See if I can swing a little bit across the ball. There it is. Yeah, that's 3 right there, and that ball is now, you know, rolling flat on the ground before it's even at the service line. So sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time that your opponent does hit topspin, remember that their topspin is moving the same direction as your underspin. So you'll see some of your best drop shots holding that at about a 3 on grip pressure against topspin because it really amplifies the spin. All right, so there's the backhand drop shot. Continental grip, make sure that the swing path, albeit it's going to change based on the speed of the ball, you know, sets high a little bit, really drops down, you know, shallow it out underneath the ball. The slower it comes in, you'll lengthen that finish. The faster it comes in, you'll abbreviate the finish. And then the racket angle has got to get pretty open to get that desired effect of height and a lack of depth to hit a really good drop shot. All right, so when is a great time to use a drop shot? Today I'm going to illustrate 3. The first would be simply as a change of pace. I think a lot of us out there on the baseline, modern game, we're ripping heavy topspin, trying to get height, trying to get depth. And again, we want variety. We don't want to show the same ball over and over to the opponent. So simply put, a drop shot every once in a while just shows your opponent they can't get too comfortable in the rally. Now, with that being said, I think it's really easy to turn the drop shot into a very bad idea. So I'm not saying, hey, every third ball you ever see, throw in a drop shot so they see something different. It's got to be the right time. But with that being said, me hitting 10 forehands and backhands with topspin deep, the opponent's going to get somewhat comfortable. So at some point, I've got to throw a drop shot in just to keep them on their toes. So let's get into a rally with Mark here. See if at some point in here, I could see him maybe getting comfortable against my ground stroke, and at that point, I'll try to throw a drop shot in. Okay. Mark's pretty fast too. That must have been a good drop shot. All right, so let's say that's a small piece of the rally there where maybe we were 8 shots in instead of 2 shots in each. I'm probably not prone to go for a drop shot that early in a rally, but overwhelming theme is use the drop shot when you think it's a smart time and when you think it's a good change up to just hitting your standard baseline ball, okay? Second time, and this one is probably the most appropriate in today's game around the club level. It's more and more common to see players at the baseline playing really deep. The strokes have gotten bigger, the topspin's getting higher. Players want space from the baseline. So if I'm aware that I'm playing a guy that's really comfortable 10 feet behind the baseline, as big as I could hit a ball, Mark's probably going to handle it from that far back. So I want to expose the front side of the court once in a while to let him know how far of a distance he is away from a good drop shot landing, you know, in the front 10th of the court up here. All right, so what I'll do is, you know, try to make him respect the deep ball, make him understand why he's playing so far back. And when I see a little opportunity, a ball from him that's maybe a little shallower, little less pace, you know, I'll come in, still probably disguise it with a little bit of a forehand look, and then I'm going to drop shot him and see if I can get him to have to cover a huge amount of court coming forward. All right, so there he is, really far back in the baseline. All right, let's keep him back there. Really deep, he's comfortable. Really deep. And a lot of times just too much ground to cover. So while he's going to be really solid against my heavy ground strokes probably, I can be really looking for the time that that drop shot exposes all this tennis court. Even the side to side from back there, he's going to have an easier time with. So that's the second time. I want you really looking to the front part of the court as you start to see that opponent 8, 10, 12 feet behind the baseline. The third time would simply be when I'm ahead in the rally. And how do I get ahead in the rally? I start to see Mark out of position, most likely to one of the corners of the court and hopefully pretty deep, because that would compound his situation. If I've got him really wide, Mark run way to the right, and now let's say I push you back a little bit, look how far away he is from the front of the court up here, especially if I come back to the ad side. He's got this huge distance to run. So what I'll try to do is, you know, work the ball into a corner, get him really stretched where now especially his shot coming back should be essentially a little bit weaker, and then I'm going to make him cover so much court it's going to be extremely tough. So I will really look for that drop shot to be utilized when I'm ahead in a rally. Okay, so let's get that going, Mark. Okay, and that's the cool thing too. There might be a little volley put away, which is fine. You know, I'm going to make sure I'm watching Mark. It's a little distracting once in a while because they're running so far, but just keep your eye on where that tennis ball is. Kind of get in front of it if you think there's another shot to come. But I've got him winded now, which is awesome. He had to cover so much court. That could turn into a situation where he's now tired for the next rally and I get a free point there. So, the other cool thing there, I think, Mark, you agree, I'm stepping up. You're thinking I'm probably ripping another ball there, and then there comes the drop shot. So, there's an element there where people get in their head that they're getting, you know, dismantled in the rally, and this power is probably going to keep coming, and then all of a sudden a drop shot gets triggered, and they're kind of left in the dust. So, 3 really good scenarios there. You know, simply change of pace, look at an opponent that really likes to stay deep in the baseline area, expose the front part of the court, and then when you're ahead in the rally, absolutely once in a while throw that drop shot in, simply because a lot of times they think you're going to keep pounding away and it's another good time to have a change of pace. All right, so when are some times that are just not good to use a drop shot? In my book, 3 main ones. I've fallen victim to all 3 of these. I'm sure you have too. Let me point them out so we can avoid getting into situations like this. The first would be when I'm way too deep behind the baseline, all right? And this, you know, again, we're back here, the ball comes in, probably with some heavy top spin. Mark, yeah, you're in a good spot right there. Hit some top spin into my forehand. I'm going to actually try to hit a great drop shot, but then you chase it down. Let's see how easy you get to this when I'm... Yeah, I mean, look, from farther away to have any chance to get a drop shot to get over the net, I have to add more height, Okay, let's be clear on that. The farther back I go with any shot, including drop shot, the ball has to have more height to get over the net, especially a finesse shot like this, because it's not like I'm trying to get power here. So the higher the hang time, the longer he has to come forward. Okay, not to mention the bounce is going to be higher. So you saw that. I actually landed that ball in a pretty decent drop shot spot, but now because the ball carried with more height, the bounce is going to sit up higher. So he's actually taken a shoulder high backhand from a position where he was 2 or 3 feet behind the baseline. Yes, I know that he knew it was coming, but honestly, that's not a hard play for a decent player at the baseline to see me back here, hang a ball up, and come in and rip it even without the knowledge that it was coming. So avoid that drop shot when you're 4, 6, 8, 10 feet behind the baseline. It's just a no-no. All right, the second time that I really don't like using drop shot is when I personally am behind in the rally, meaning, you know, I've probably hit a shaky, shorter ground stroke. Mark stepped up into the court. He probably tried to attack my backhand. And on the stretch, possibly, you know, I said to myself, maybe I'll try a drop shot here to get out of trouble. That would be a really bad scenario. You know, here comes the short ball. Mark hits into my backhand. I'm coming over here and, you know, drop shot number 1, I'm probably going to miss it a lot. And number 2, if he's ahead in the rally, think about it. What's a good player doing when they're ahead in the rally? They're advancing. So he's not the guy now that's 8 feet behind the baseline, really far away from my drop shot. He's up inside the court, and I'm trying to just, you know, pitch it over. He's got a very short distance to run to this ball. So let's put that into play. I'll set this up with kind of a weaker short ball. So here's your weak short ball, Mark. Into the backhand. I think drop shot's a good idea. Toast. Okay. And yes, Mark and I have set that up to show you, but trust me, that is what will occur. He's a good player. I hit the weak ball. I'm in trouble here on my backhand. I should not go drop shot. I've got to hit something that tries to neutralize his position and push him back again. So this is the riskiest play. Even though you might feel safety in how the shot comes off the racket, it's not safe because he should be dominating me in that point. Okay? Now the third time would just be overuse. All right, and I think we all understand that idea. We fall in love with any specific type of shot and we just use it way too often. I even remember Federer at the US Open a couple years ago. It was a match he ended up losing, but he just kept going to drop shot because it worked. And I think it was Djokovic. Djokovic just started, you know, bum rushing the net because Federer's just showing the drop shot early. And even the #1, you know, player in my book of all time gets beat because the drop shot was too much in play. All right. There's not really a way I can simulate that right now because I'm not going to show you 10 points in a row. But just be clear that I think probably the correct number of drop shots to use in any given set is maybe 3 or 4. You know, I think that keeps us honest with the opponent. It lets them know that we're not just hitting everything deep. But to hit a drop shot 10 times in a set, you know, that's 2.5 games of tennis in terms of point play where I've used a drop shot. That's way too often. So 3 or 4 times, use it sparingly, use it at the right times, and avoid those 3 scenarios, and you won't be making unforced errors or seeing your drop shot get put away for winners. All right, so what's a way we can take the drop shot to the next level and really advance it? To me, it's the idea of disguise. You know, you see every pro, when they get a high sitter, especially on the forehand side, they're going to show you their full forehand in the set position, meaning the grip dictates that the opponent has to respect, you know, my drive forehand. All right, Mark, if you saw me run up to a short ball that sat up and my grip was like this, what are you thinking here? probably that I'm either going to chip it, which I don't do all that often, or a drop shot's coming, right? Okay, so an opponent on the other side who's not extremely perceptive, we can get away with running up to a high sitter already in continental grip, hit an effective drop shot, and win the rally. But as the opponent gets better, we've got to do something to trick them, essentially. So the play that I like is simply set up for this high sitter in your standard forehand grip, whether it's Eastern, semi, full Western, what have you. Move up to the ball, setting the loop of the racket. Okay, right here, Mark is neutralized. He would never, ever come forward on me here. He can't. Okay, so he's got to stay off me, and he's most likely going to step back a little bit. If I've got a good forehand, you probably jump back a step or two. So then the play is this. At kind of the last second, we're going to end up switching into a continental. I've already neutralized him, got him on his heels a little bit, and then I'll sweep under. There's really two ways to do this. Me personally, I'll set it, and then I actually change the grip without the assist of the left hand, but I know there's a lot of pros out there that set, and then they change the grip with the assist of the left hand. Neither is right, neither is wrong, but we do have to get into continental, obviously, for the drop shot. So whatever's the easiest way for you to do that, go ahead and get that continental grip set, and then just pull the trigger on a drop shot. It's an awesome play. You see every pro disguising their drop shot when the ball is presented like this with the full swing set position and then the last second grip change. So let's have a look. Mark, you go ahead and feed me one up. And I'm prepping. And there it is. He even knew that was coming and that had him. Okay? So that takes some practice, and obviously when you're doing a grip change at the last second, things can get a little bit dicey. We could get a little nervous. Oh, did it get all the way over? So that is something to practice, absolutely. You could even hand toss that drill to yourself. Start at the baseline, hand toss a ball up out in front of you, run up, change the grip, and practice your drop shot, because that transition from your forehand grip to the continental is really the only tricky thing about it. Once we get to that ball, it was a high sitter with no pace, and we're hitting a drop shot. Not too much to that. So get used to the grip change, and that disguise is really going to take your drop shot to the next level as your opponent gets better and better.